Everyone thought the story of extreme hypercar rebuilds had already reached its peak when the Bugatti Veyron situation made headlines. But now something similar is happening again, and this time the pressure feels even higher. In the world of supercars and hypercars, very few names create as much respect and fear at the same time as Bugatti, because these cars are not just vehicles. They are complex machines built with extreme precision, advanced engineering, and very strict control systems that only the manufacturer fully understands. Now, when a damaged Bugatti Veyron enters the garage of popular car builder Mat Armstrong, it immediately becomes clear that this is not going to be a normal rebuild project like the ones he has done before. Normally, his process is simple and proven. He buys damaged cars, inspects them, finds missing or broken parts, orders replacements, and slowly rebuilds a car back to life using skill, patience, and smart planning. This system has worked for him many times before with different performance cars, and it has helped him build a strong reputation in the automotive rebuild community. But the moment a Bugatti enters the picture, everything changes because this is not a normal car that can be repaired with standard parts or independent workshop decisions. From the beginning, the Veyron looks like a standard damage project, but underneath that surface, there's a hidden layer of complexity that makes everything harder. As Matt begins to inspect the vehicle, he quickly realizes that the problems are not just surface-level damage, but deep mechanical issues involving multiple systems working together in a highly specialized way. The car is not just worn out. It has missing components, damaged systems, and unclear service history, which makes the rebuild even more complicated. At this point, the project already starts shifting from a simple repair job into a full-scale engineering challenge that requires not just tools and parts, but also access to manufacturer-level knowledge and support. This is where the real tension begins, because while Matt is experienced in rebuilding high-performance cars, the Bugatti Veyron is in a completely different category, where even basic decisions can affect the entire system. Every component is connected to another system, meaning that one small issue can create a chain reaction of problems. This is why the rebuild immediately feels heavier and more serious than anything else he has worked on before. The expectation is still the same on the surface. Fix the car and bring it back to life. But the reality underneath is far more complicated, and it slowly becomes clear that this project will not follow the normal rules of independent car rebuilding. Instead, it will test not only mechanical skill, but also control, access, and the limits of working outside manufacturer systems as the inspection continues. Mat Armstrong begins to uncover more serious problems that confirm this is not just a damaged supercar, but a deeply complicated engineering restoration project. The Bugatti Veyron is known for its advanced design, powerful engine system, and tightly controlled electronics. But when a car like this is neglected or damaged, the repair process becomes extremely difficult because every system depends on manufacturer-specific tools and data. At first, Matt approaches a rebuild the same way he always does, by breaking the car down step by step, listing missing parts, and identifying what needs to be replaced. This is usually the stage where most rebuilds become organized and predictable, because once you know the problems, you can simply order the parts and begin repairs. However, with this Bugatti, that simple process quickly starts to break down. Some components are missing entirely. Others are too specialized to be sourced easily, and several systems require official calibration tools that are not available to independent builders. As the list of required parts grows, so does the complexity of the situation, and it becomes clear that this is not just a matter of money or effort, but access. One of the biggest issues is that certain critical components, like specialized keys, control modules, and performance systems, cannot be replaced or programmed without direct manufacturer involvement. This immediately creates a barrier that does not exist in normal car rebuilds. Instead of simply ordering parts online or through suppliers, Matt is forced to think about contacting Bugatti directly, which introduces a completely different level of control over the project. When he reaches out to official dealerships, the response is not what he expects. In some cases, there is no reply at all, which is already unusual for such a high-end brand. And in other cases, the response comes with strict conditions. The most shocking part is when it becomes clear that parts will only be provided if the car is brought to the dealership and the entire work is carried out under their supervision. This completely changes the direction of the rebuild because it means the owner or builder no longer has full control over the vehicle. Instead, the manufacturer retains control over parts, repair process, and even final approval. This is where the situation becomes more than just a mechanical challenge and turns into a larger question about ownership and independence. If every repair must go through the manufacturer, then the idea of independently restoring such a vehicle becomes almost impossible. For Matt, this creates a serious dilemma because sending the car to Bugatti would mean losing control of a project, while keeping it in his own garage means dealing with extreme limitations and uncertainty. This moment marks the turning point of the entire story, because the rebuild is no longer just about fixing a damaged car. It is now about whether it is even possible to restore Bugatti Veyron outside of manufacturer control systems. At this stage of the rebuild, the situation takes a serious turn as a response from the Bugatti network introduces a restriction that completely changes the direction of the entire project. Instead of supporting an independent repair process, the dealership response makes it clear that access to official parts and systems is not open in the way most people would expect from a luxury automotive brand. For a car like the Bugatti Veyron, parts are not just simple replacements that can be shipped and installed anywhere. They are tightly controlled components that often require programming, authorization, and system integration that only the manufacturer can fully provide. This means that even if a builder like Mat Armstrong has the technical ability to repair the physical damage, he still cannot complete the job without official approval and system access. The most shocking moment comes when it is communicated that parts will only be supplied if the car is brought directly to the dealership and the work is carried out under their supervision. This is not just a limitation. It is a complete shift in ownership control. It means the builder cannot simply purchase parts and continue working independently. Instead, the entire repair process becomes tied to the manufacturer's system. For someone who has built his reputation on independent car rebuilding, this creates a major conflict because it removes the freedom that normally defines his projects. The reaction to this type of restriction is not just frustration, but also confusion, because it raises a bigger question about how far manufacturer control extends over vehicles once they are sold. In most industries, once a product is purchased, the owner has the freedom to repair or modify it as they wish. But in the case of hypercars like Bugatti, the system appears to work differently. This creates tension not only in the practical sense, but also in the philosophical sense, because it challenges the idea of ownership itself. If a car owner cannot freely repair their own vehicle or choose who works on it, then the meaning of ownership becomes limited. This is where the story becomes more than just a rebuild and starts to feel like a debate about control, exclusivity, and access in the modern automotive world. The restriction also creates urgency in the project because every delay adds complexity, and every missing part becomes harder to source without official cooperation. As the situation develops, it becomes clear that this is not an isolated case, but potentially part of a broader system that applies to other Bugatti vehicles as well, raising concerns that similar restrictions may affect other rebuild projects in the future. As the rebuild situation continues to unfold, the financial and technical pressure begins to increase significantly, making it clear that this is not just a normal restoration project, but a high-stakes engineering challenge with unpredictable costs. One of the key issues is that even basic servicing for a Bugatti Veyron is extremely expensive, often reaching tens of thousands of dollars before any major repairs are even considered. When combined with the list of missing and damaged components identified by Mat Armstrong, the total cost begins to rise quickly, and there is no clear limit to how high it might go. Unlike standard vehicles, where repair costs can be estimated with some accuracy, hypercars operate in a different financial category where rare parts, specialized tools, and manufacturer control systems all contribute to unpredictable expenses. The most important concern is not just the price itself, but the dependency that comes with it. Because certain parts and systems can only be accessed through official channels, the builder is forced into a position where he cannot freely source alternatives or work around problems in the same way he might with other cars. This creates a dependency loop where every solution leads back to the manufacturer, increasing both cost and loss of control. At the same time, the technical complexity of the Veyron adds another layer of difficulty. Systems such as engine management, transmission control, cooling networks, and electronic modules are all interconnected, meaning that even a small repair requires careful calibration and system-wide checks. If one part is replaced incorrectly or without proper programming, it can affect the entire performance of the car. This level of precision makes independent repair extremely difficult and increases the risk of mistakes. The situation becomes even more complicated when rare components, such as performance activation keys or specialized control units, are added to the list of required parts. These items are not only expensive but also require verification and coding from the manufacturer, which again ties the process back to dealership involvement. As a result, the rebuild begins to feel less like a traditional mechanical project and more like a controlled system operation where access determines progress. The pressure builds because there are now only two possible directions: either accept full manufacturer involvement and lose independence, or continue independently and face increasing technical and logistical barriers. This decision becomes a central conflict of the entire project, shaping every step that follows and turning the rebuild into a test of both skill and control in the modern hypercar world. As the rebuild moves forward, the situation reaches a critical point where the entire project is no longer just about repairing a damaged Bugatti Veyron, but about deciding who actually controls the car and the repair process itself. On one side, there is the option of sending the vehicle to the official Bugatti network, where everything will be handled under strict manufacturer supervision. This would guarantee access to original parts, correct programming tools, and factory-level expertise, but would also mean giving up complete control of the project. On the other side, there is the independent path, where Mat Armstrong keeps the car in his own workshop and attempts to complete the rebuild using his own knowledge, experience, and available resources. This option preserves freedom but comes with serious challenges, including limited access to official components, lack of factory software, and the constant risk of hitting technical barriers that cannot be solved without manufacturer support. This creates a clear and powerful conflict between convenience and independence. The Bugatti system, as revealed through the dealership response, does not operate like a normal automotive repair structure. Instead, it appears to be built around strict control of parts, diagnostics, and programming access, meaning that even skilled independent builders cannot fully operate outside of its system. This raises an important question about the nature of modern hypercars. Are they truly owned by the buyer, or are they still partially controlled by the manufacturer through technical restrictions? For Matt, this is not just a theoretical question, but a real practical problem affecting every step of the rebuild. Every missing part becomes a decision point. Every system fault becomes a dependency, and every repair option becomes limited by access rules. The deeper he goes into the car, the more it becomes clear that this is not just a mechanical restoration, but a test of autonomy in a highly controlled engineering environment. The tension builds because both choices carry serious consequences. Choosing independence means accepting uncertainty, potential delays, and increased technical difficulty. Choosing the dealership route means losing creative control and handing over the project to external authority. This is where the emotional weight of the story becomes strongest, because it is no longer just about fixing a car. It is about whether modern hypercars can truly be repaired freely once they leave the factory system as the decision becomes more difficult. The rebuild begins to represent something far bigger than just one damaged Bugatti Veyron, turning into a wider discussion about the future of automotive ownership and repair freedom. The deeper issue is that modern hypercars like the Veyron are built with extremely advanced systems that rely heavily on proprietary software, encrypted diagnostics, and manufacturer-specific tools, meaning that even highly skilled independent builders face serious limitations when attempting repairs. In this case, the situation faced by Mat Armstrong highlights a growing tension in the automotive world: the balance between safety, control, and owner independence. From a manufacturer perspective, strict control over parts and repair processes can be justified as a way to ensure safety, maintain performance standards, and protect the integrity of extremely complex engineering systems. However, from a perspective of independent builders and car enthusiasts, these same restrictions can feel like limitations that reduce ownership freedom and prevent skilled individuals from working on their own vehicles. As the Veyron rebuild continues under these restrictions, the pressure increases because every attempt to solve a problem independently leads to another barrier that requires official intervention. This creates a cycle where progress becomes dependent on external approval, slowing down the entire project and increasing uncertainty. At the same time, the financial impact continues to grow, as rare parts and specialized services come with extremely high costs that can escalate quickly without clear limits. The combination of technical difficulty, financial pressure, and restricted access transforms the rebuild into a high-stakes challenge where every decision carries significant consequences. This is why the story resonates so strongly, because it is not just about one car. It reflects a broader shift in the automotive industry where technology is becoming more closed, controlled, and manufacturer-dependent. The Veyron, once seen as a symbol of ultimate performance and engineering freedom, now becomes a case study in how far that freedom actually extends after purchase. As the rebuild progresses, the central question remains unanswered. Can a car of this complexity truly be restored outside the manufacturer system, or has the future hypercars already moved beyond independent repair? This uncertainty is what keeps the tension alive and makes the outcome of the project so important. Because whatever happens next will not only decide the fate of the single rebuild, but may also reflect a larger truth about the direction of modern automotive engineering. As the rebuild continues to develop, the pressure reaches a point where every single decision starts to feel critical. Because the Bugatti Veyron is no longer just a damaged supercar sitting in a workshop, it has become a system, locked behind layers of manufacturer control. Every attempt to move forward with repairs reveals another dependency that ties the project back to official channels, whether it is software calibration, rare component access, or security verification for key systems. For Mat Armstrong, this creates a constant push-and-pull situation where progress is possible, but only if certain external conditions are met. The most frustrating part is that even when physical repairs are within his capability, the electronic and coded systems prevent full completion without dealership-level authorization. This means that the rebuild is not just limited by mechanical skill, but by access rights embedded inside the car's digital architecture. The Veyron, once fully dismantled for inspection and planning, now represents a puzzle where some pieces cannot be activated or validated without permission from the original manufacturer system. This adds a completely new layer of difficulty because it removes the traditional idea of fixing a car and replaces it with a controlled process of approval and integration. As the list of unresolved issues grows, so does the realization that independence in this type of project is not just difficult. It may be structurally restricted by design. This creates a sense of urgency because every delay increases complexity and every missing authorization slows down the entire rebuild process. At the same time, the emotional weight of the project increases because the car is not just a machine, but also a symbol of what modern hypercars have become. The deeper the investigation goes, the clearer it becomes that the challenge is no longer only about repairing damage, but about navigating a system where control is distributed between owner and manufacturer in an uneven way. This imbalance forces a constant reassessment of strategy, as every step forward requires balancing technical capability with system restrictions, making the rebuild feel less like a straightforward restoration and more like a controlled negotiation with the boundaries of automotive engineering itself. By the time the rebuild reaches its most critical stage, the entire situation surrounding the Bugatti Veyron has evolved into something far greater than a standard automotive restoration, becoming, instead, a reflection of how modern hypercar ownership is structured in today's world. The experience faced by Mat Armstrong highlights a growing reality in which advanced vehicles are no longer fully open systems that can be repaired freely by skilled independent builders, but instead highly controlled machines that rely on manufacturer ecosystems for full functionality. This shift raises important questions about the future of car ownership, especially in the high-performance segment, where technology is becoming increasingly complex and integrated with proprietary software systems. On one hand, this level of control ensures that vehicles operate at peak performance, maintain safety standards, and receive properly calibrated repairs that match the original engineering design. On the other hand, it reduces the freedom of owners and independent mechanics to fully engage with the repair process without external approval or support. As a result, the Veyron rebuild becomes more than just a single project. It turns into an example of a broader transformation happening within the automotive industry. The deeper implication is that future hypercars may not only be defined by their speed, design, or engineering power, but also by how much control the manufacturer retains after the point of sale. This creates a tension between innovation and accessibility, where the most advanced machines also become the most restricted in terms of independent repair. In the case of this rebuild, every challenge, every delay, and every restriction adds to a larger narrative about how far independence can go in a system designed with built-in limitations. Ultimately, the story leaves the audience with a powerful question. In a world where even highly skilled builders face barriers to repairing the most advanced machines, what does true ownership really mean? And how much control should manufacturers retain once a car leaves the factory? In the end, the Bugatti Veyron rebuild is no longer just a story about a broken hypercar being restored in a garage. It becomes a much larger example of how modern automotive engineering is changing the relationship between owners, builders, and manufacturers. What started as a simple plan to repair a damaged car slowly turns into a complicated battle between independence and control, where every step forward depends on systems that exist far beyond the workshop. For Mat Armstrong, the challenge is not only mechanical but also structural, because the car itself is built in a way that limits how freely it can be repaired outside official channels. This situation forces a difficult realization. The more advanced a vehicle becomes, the more controlled its repair ecosystem also becomes. In the case of the Bugatti Veyron, this means that even highly skilled builders cannot fully escape manufacturer systems when dealing with certain parts, software, and security features. The rebuild therefore represents a shift in mindset, where ownership no longer guarantees full independence over repair decisions. Instead, it introduces a shared control model where manufacturers still hold influence even after the sale is complete. As the project unfolds, it highlights a growing debate in the automotive world about the balance between innovation and freedom. On one side, strict control ensures that vehicles are repaired correctly, safely, and according to original engineering standards. On the other side, it limits the ability of independent experts to fully engage with the machines they are capable of repairing. This tension is not just theoretical. It is actively shaping the future how hypercars and other advanced vehicles will be maintained. Ultimately, the Veyron rebuild becomes more than just a YouTube project. It becomes a symbol of a new era in automotive technology, where access, software control, and manufacturer authority play as important a role as horsepower and design. The outcome of this rebuild does not only determine the fate of one car, but also raises a much bigger question about where the industry is heading. As the situation around the Bugatti Veyron continues to evolve, the deeper meaning of the entire rebuild becomes even more visible, because it is no longer just about a single car or a single creator, but about an entire shift in how modern performance vehicles are designed, controlled, and maintained in the real world. In the past, car culture was built on the idea that once you own a vehicle, you have complete freedom to repair it, modify it, or rebuild it however you wanted, as long as you had the skill and the tools. But in today's world of hypercars, that freedom is slowly becoming more limited due to advanced electronics, encrypted software systems, and strict manufacturer-controlled diagnostic tools. In the case of the Bugatti Veyron rebuild involving Mat Armstrong, this shift becomes very clear, because even though the physical work of repairing the car can be done independently, the digital systems inside the vehicle still depend heavily on official authorization and factory-level access. This creates a situation where mechanical ability alone is no longer enough to complete a full restoration, because modern hypercars are designed as integrated systems where hardware and software are tightly connected. As a result, every major step in the rebuild is influenced not just by engineering skill, but also by access permissions controlled by the manufacturer. This changes the emotional nature of the project as well, because instead of feeling like a fully independent challenge, it starts to feel like a negotiation between human capability and system restrictions. At the same time, it highlights the financial pressure that comes with such vehicles, where even simple components can cost extremely high amounts and where official servicing requirements can significantly increase the total rebuild budget. This combination of technical limitation, financial burden, and restricted access creates a unique kind of challenge that is very different from traditional car restoration projects. It also raises an important question for the future. As technology continues to evolve, will independent builders and enthusiasts still be able to fully restore and rebuild advanced machines, or will the entire process eventually become controlled by manufacturers through digital systems and locked software environments? This uncertainty is what makes the Veyron story so powerful, because it represents not just one rebuild, but a possible direction for the entire automotive industry, where ownership may remain physical, but control becomes increasingly digital and centralized.